The Ninth Witness, The Secret of Dyatlov Pass. Chapter 1. The Secret Order, Moscow, Lubyanka, 4th floor, January 15, 1959. KGB Lieutenant Colonel Viktor Mikhailovich Solovyov sat in General Gromov's office, studying the files of 9 students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute spread across the desk. Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, radio technician, group leader. Lyudmila Dubinina, 20 years old, athlete from Sverdlovsk. Semyon Zolotaryov, 38 years old, the oldest in the group, war veteran with a mysterious past. Solovyov was 34 years old. He had survived the war, worked in the NKVD special department, seen many deaths, but what they were proposing now went beyond anything he had encountered before. "Do you understand the importance of this operation, Comrade Lieutenant Colonel?" General Gromov stood at the window, looking out at snowy Moscow, his massive figure reflected in the glass. "I understand, Comrade General," Solovyov replied, though deep down he wasn't sure he did. Gromov turned, his face tense with deep folds around his mouth, the face of a man bearing the heavy burden of state secrets. Institute Number 3 of the Ministry of Defense has developed a device that could change the course of the Cold War. The Psychotronic generator, Wave 7, capable of affecting human psyche at distances up to 5 kilometers. He placed a photograph of a strange device on the table, a cylindrical metal housing the size of a suitcase, covered with wires, antennas, and mysterious coils. Uses a combination of infrasound waves and electromagnetic radiation, induces panic, hallucinations, complete disorientation, uncontrollable fear in targets. Imagine, during war, we can demoralize entire enemy army units without a single shot. Solovyov picked up the photograph, studying the details. Have tests been conducted? On animals, yes, results are promising. Rats fled in panic, dogs became aggressive, or, conversely, fell into stupor. But we need data on human effects, real field conditions, isolated location, controlled experiment. "And you've chosen a tourist group of students." A note Solovyov couldn't hide crept into his voice. Gromov looked at him intently. "Comrade Lieutenant Colonel, I hope you won't display bourgeois sentimentality. These young people will make the greatest contribution to Soviet Union security. They'll help us create a weapon that will make nuclear war impossible." "Do they know about this?" Solovyov asked, though he already knew the answer. "Of course not. This is a classified operation of the highest level. You'll be embedded in the group undercover. Study the file of Semyon Alexeyevich Zolotaryov." Solovyov opened the folder. Zolotaryov, 38 years old, born 1921, war participant, holds 4 government awards. After the war, worked as a tourism instructor, single, no children, taciturn, reserved, perfect candidate for replacement. "The real Zolotaryov?" Solovyov asked. "Is in custody of security services. He agreed to temporary removal for state security considerations. After operation completion, he'll return to normal life." "And the students won't notice the substitution?" "Zolotaryov joined the group at the last moment, literally a week before departure. They barely know him. Your biography and appearance are maximally aligned with the original. You've completed special training in ski tourism. You'll manage." Gromov retrieved another folder from the safe, marked Top Secret, Special Importance. The group's route passes through the northern Urals, the area of Kholat Syakhl mountain. In Mansi language, Mountain of the Dead. Local Mansi avoid it, consider it a cursed place. Perfect for our purposes. Complete isolation, 0 probability of random witnesses. "What's the operation plan?" Solovyov asked, feeling cold creeping up his spine. "Simple and elegant. The group departs January 23rd from Sverdlovsk. By end of January, they'll reach the remote area. You, as a group member, will carry the generator in a special backpack disguised as equipment. The device is camouflaged as radio equipment. If anyone asks, it's a spare radio for communication. Gromov unfolded a map of the northern Urals, pointing to a marked spot. February 1-2, when the group sets up camp on Kholat Syakhl slope, you activate the generator at full power. We expect the following effects: panic, disorientation, possible hallucinations. Students may leave the tent, but in minus 25-30-degree frost they won't last long. You document reactions, then deactivate the device and ensure your own rescue. Ensure my own rescue, Solovyov repeated slowly. And the students? The students will fulfill their patriotic duty. Their death will be attributed to accident, natural force. Such tragedies happen in the mountains. The investigation will be conducted by our man, Prosecutor Tempalov. Everything will be properly documented. Solovyov looked at photographs of 9 young faces. Dyatlov, with intelligent, serious eyes, dreamed of becoming an engineer. Dubinina, athlete with an open smile. Krivonishenko, worker at the Mayak atomic plant. All of them, Soviet citizens, Komsomol members, believing in a bright future, and he was supposed to kill them. Comrade General, Solovyov began, carefully choosing words, are there alternative options? Volunteers from military personnel, prisoners, anyone, but not students? Gromov's face became hard. Comrade Lieutenant Colonel, have you forgotten where you are? This isn't a discussion club. This is the KGB. The order is approved at the highest level. The question isn't whether you like it or not. The question is whether you'll execute the order or prefer to join the test subjects as a guinea pig. Solovyov understood he had no choice. In the Soviet Union of 1959, refusing such an assignment meant, at best, career suicide, at worst, something far more serious. I'll execute the order, Comrade General, he said. Excellent. You fly to Sverdlovsk in 3 days. There you'll receive final briefing, documents, generator. January 23rd, you meet the group at the station. Act naturally, be uncommunicative. This matches real Zolotaryov's character. Remember, the success of this operation determines the entire Union's security. When Solovyov left the office holding folders marked with secrecy stamps, he felt the world had changed. An hour ago, he was a KGB officer, honestly serving the motherland. Now he was a potential murderer of 9 innocent people. That night, in his apartment on Kutuzovsky Prospect, Solovyov stared long at the photograph of Dyatlov's group. 9 young faces full of enthusiasm and hope. They were going to conquer the northern Urals, complete the most difficult Category 3 route, return as heroes. They didn't know that one of them wasn't who he claimed to be, that their expedition would become not a triumph, but a tragedy, that they would become guinea pigs in a secret military experiment. Solovyov poured himself vodka, drank it down, then another, but alcohol didn't help. The students' faces continued staring at him from the photograph. Forgive me, he whispered into the void. If I had a choice, but there was no choice. In the Soviet Union, there was never any choice. Chapter 2. The Last Night. Kholat Syakhl Mountain Slope, Northern Urals, February 1st, 1959, 9:43 p.m. The group set up camp on an open slope, though below, about 1.5 kilometers away, grew forest where they could have sheltered from the wind. But Igor Dyatlov insisted camping at altitude would give them additional points for route difficulty. They were athletes, elite category tourists, and such trifles as comfort didn't interest them. Viktor Solovyov, known to the group as Semyon Zolotaryov, helped set up the tent. 9 people, 1 large Pamir-type tent. The wind howled, throwing stinging snow in their faces. Temperature around minus 25 degrees. Semyon, how are you? Not frozen, shouted Lyudmila Dubinina, securing a guy line. She was 18 years younger than him, a cheerful, strong girl. Fine, Solovyov replied. I've spent nights in worse conditions during the war. This was true. Viktor Solovyov really had fought in the war, seen death, but what he was about to do tonight had nothing to do with war. This was murder under cover of scientific experiment. Inside the tent, it became cramped when everyone climbed in. 9 people in sleeping bags pressed tightly together to keep warm. Dyatlov was writing final notes of the day in his diary. Krivonyshenko was quietly humming something. Doroshenko was fixing a torn backpack strap. Solovyov sat at the far edge of the tent, his backpack beside him. In a special compartment disguised as a radio equipment box was the Wave 7 generator. He only needed to press the activation button, and within minutes the device would begin emitting infrasound waves. But Solovyov hesitated. He had spent 10 days with these people, learned their habits, characters, dreams. Dyatlov dreamed of defending his diploma and marrying Zinaida Kolmogorova. Dubinina wanted to become a ski sports coach. Krivonyshenko worked at a secret facility but dreamed of peaceful life. How could he kill them? Semyon, something wrong? Quietly asked Alexander Kolovatov, lying nearby. Solovyov flinched. Everything's fine, just thinking about tomorrow's route. Tomorrow will be tough. Kolovatov nodded, but we'll manage. We're a team. A team. Yes, they had become a team in these 10 days, and he was part of it. And now he was supposed to betray them. Solovyov closed his eyes, trying to gather his courage. He remembered General Gromov's words. The success of this operation determines the entire Union's security. Remembered that refusal would mean career end, possibly life. His hand slowly reached for the backpack, and at that moment something happened. A sharp crack. The tent shuddered as if struck by a giant hand. A sound came from the darkness. Not thunder, not explosion, something in between. "What was that?" cried Dubinina. Dyatlov jumped from his sleeping bag, grabbed a flashlight. Everyone stay calm, possible avalanche. But there was no avalanche. There was another sound, a low, vibrating hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The frequency was so low it couldn't be heard with normal hearing, but it was felt by the entire body, resonating in bones, skull, chest. Solovyov instantly understood. Someone had activated a psychotronic device, but not his. Somewhere nearby, on the slope, another generator was operating, much more powerful. "God, what is that sound?" Rustem Slobodin grabbed his head. "My head is splitting." The infrasound intensified. Solovyov felt its effect. Rising panic, irrational fear, the desire to run anywhere, just away from this place. "We need to get out of here, immediately," shouted Nikolai Thibault Brignol. "Calm down." Dyatlov tried to maintain control. "We can't just run out into the frost. We need to dress, take equipment." But panic had already gripped the group. Doroshenko grabbed a knife and cut the tent from inside, creating an additional exit. People began climbing out in whatever they were wearing. Some in felt boots, some barefoot. Someone managed to throw on a jacket. Someone ran out in just a sweater. Solovyov, trained to resist psychological influence, tried to maintain clarity of thinking, but the infrasound was too strong. His own generator was a child's toy compared to what was operating now. This wasn't a planned operation. This was an unsanctioned experiment. Someone else was testing psychotronic weapons in the same place at the same time. Jumping from the tent, Solovyov saw something that made his blood freeze. On the slope, about a kilometer away, glowed a strange orange luminescence. Not fire, not lamp, a pulsating, unnatural light. "There, to the forest, down!" shouted Dyatlov, pointing in the opposite direction from the glow. The group ran. 9 people in panic, half-dressed in 30-degree frost, floundering in snow, stumbling, falling, getting up and running again. They ran 1.5 kilometers down the slope to the forest, away from the tent and that terrifying orange glow. Solovyov ran with them, but unlike the students, he understood what was happening. This wasn't an accident. This was a military operation gone out of control. When they reached the forest, to a large cedar at the forest boundary, the panic began to recede slightly. The infrasound here was weaker. The trees apparently created some protection. "Fire," commanded Dyatlov, his lips already blue from cold. "Need to start a fire. Warm up." Krivonishenko and Doroshenko began breaking lower cedar branches, trying to get dry fuel. But their hands already weren't obeying. Hypothermia was setting in quickly. Solovyov looked around, counting people. 1, 2, 3, 9, all alive, for now. "We need to return to the tent," he said. "Get equipment, clothes, here, we'll freeze." "Are you crazy?" Slobodin screamed. "There's that thing there. You saw the light, you heard the sound." "I'll go alone," Solovyov insisted. "I'm military, I can handle it." "No," Dyatlov said firmly. "We don't separate. Whatever's there, we're together. That's the tourist rule, never split up." But they had already split up. Panic, cold, and infrasound had done their work. The group began fragmenting into small pieces. Dubinina, Kolovatov, Zolotaryov, and Thibaut Brignol decided to descend lower to a ravine where there was less wind. Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin tried to return to the tent for equipment. Krivonishenko and Doroshenko stayed by the cedar, starting a fire. "Don't do this," Solovyov shouted. "We must stay together." But no one was listening to him anymore. Fear and cold destroyed teamwork. Everyone acted on survival instincts. Solovyov stood in the middle of the forest, understanding that the experiment had turned into catastrophe. The generator was still operating somewhere on the slope. The orange glow didn't stop, and 9 young people were slowly freezing to death in the Ural forest. And worst of all, he began seeing hallucinations. Between the trees flashed figures, soldiers in military uniform from 1943, his combat comrades killed in the war. They looked at him with reproach. "You're killing children, Vitya," one of them said. "For what? For career? For a state that itself sends its citizens to death?" Solovyov squeezed his eyes shut, trying to drive away the visions. But they wouldn't disappear. The infrasound was destroying his consciousness, just as it was destroying the student's consciousness. He heard a scream. Looked back, someone from the group had fallen in the snow. Someone else tried to help, but could barely stand himself. They were dying, one by one, and he could do nothing. "Forgive me," Solovyov whispered into the darkness. "Forgive me, Igor. Forgive me, Lyuda. Forgive me, all of you." But there was no forgiveness. There was only night, cold, and slowly fading cries of people dying from hypothermia on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl mountain, the mountain of the dead. The mountain had lived up to its name. Chapters 3 and 4 continue with the investigation cover-up, Solovyov's mental breakdown in KGB psychiatric clinic, his final confession in 1991 before USSR collapse, an epilogue in 2021 showing archived evidence that confirms the psychotronic weapon program existed but remains officially denied.